Hi guys, welcome back to the Art of Server. So in today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of talking about HBA, IT mode, SAS controllers, and all that jazz, we're actually going to talk about traditional RAID controllers. And in front of you here on the workbench are three H710P mini monolithic cards, which are, I guess, from the factory, are RAID controllers for Dell's 12th generation PowerEdge servers. If you've been with my channel for a while, you probably remember that several years ago I figured out how to put the IT mode firmware on these cards, and so I sell these in my store, not these particular ones, but similar ones in my store as IT mode controller options for Dell's R12th generation servers, and especially if you are using SSDs, the H710 Mini is the better choice for SSDs. But today we're going to be talking about the stock RAID firmware version of the H710P. And in particular, I'm talking about the P version because this one has the 1 GB cache. And so it's basically the higher performing variant of the H710P. However, if you're looking at the three cards that I have on the workbench right now, you might not be able to tell that they are different. They pretty much look identical. Right, so I'll take these up towards the camera so you can see them, and honestly these are pretty identical, although I know you'll probably notice that I have a little label, and that's to help me distinguish them because these are actually different. So back when I was trying to figure out how to get IT mode firmware on these H710 cards, there was a period of time where I was really struggling trying to get the firmware to run, because some cards it worked and some cards it didn't, and eventually I found out, and if you were there, you know, several years ago with me, you probably remember that I found out that there are two revisions of the LSI SAS2208 chipset. There is a revision D1, which is a more modern revision that supports PCIe 3.0, and then there was another revision, an older revision B0, that supports only PCIe 2.0. And you can't put the 3.0 version or the 3.0 capable firmware on the 2.0 chip, and vice versa. So that was what was really tripping me up back then when I was trying to figure out how to put the IT mode firmware on these cards. And I pretty much settled on, if you've been buying from my store, you'll know that I only sell the H710 mini card that has Dell part number 5CT 6D, I believe is what it is, and that's the H710 Mini that has the revision D, the D1 that supports PCIe 3.0, and that's pretty much, you know, all I sell. So the same situation is also true with the H710P mini monolithic cards. So these three are H710Ps, and they have the 1 GB cache. They are the higher performant RAID controllers, and these have not been modified, and frankly I don't really feel the need to modify these because there's a ample supply of the 5CT6D variant, and since these have more cache and the cache would just be wasted for an IT mode card anyway, I tend to prefer to leave these as RAID controllers. And if you are going to use a traditional RAID controller in your 12th gen Dell PowerEdge server, I really do recommend that you use this one because it's just the higher performing one. But if you are going to use a RAID controller, you have to be careful because these three H710Ps have different part numbers, and more importantly have different PCIe spec features. Okay, so these two right here, and I'll bring this a little bit closer so you guys can see it in the camera. Okay, this one has part number 0TT triple V, right? So 0TT VVV, all right? You don't want to get this one. This is a PCIe 2.0 Rev B0 only H710P. So this is one of the ones you want to avoid. If you are going to be buying a H710P as a RAID controller, avoid the TT VVV part number, all right? In addition to that, there's also this one, and this has part number N, I think that's an N, hold on. Yeah, okay, so that's an 3V6G. This is also another Rev B0 version of the H710P Mini, and this also only supports PCIe 2.0. All right, so the one that you do want to get is this one. This has the part number 0TY8F9. So if you're going to get an H710P RAID controller for your 12th gen Dell PowerEdge server, this is the one I recommend, because this one with this part number, the TY8F9, or yeah, TY8F9, this is the one that has the Rev D1 chipset that supports PCIe 3.0. Okay, so remember this, if you are going to get a H710P RAID controller, this is the one you want to get. You want to look specifically for this part number. Now, Dell does not really distinguish very clearly that these cards are different than this one, and I don't know why that is, because even with the firmware update package, they don't distinguish it. What I've discovered is that I think they pack both firmwares in the firmware update, and the firmware update scripts detect which one you have and just uses the appropriate firmware to update the card. So it can be pretty confusing for most people who are not familiar with the nuances of these cards. So if you have this one, this is the better one, and if you're going to be shopping for one, this is the one you want to get. Okay, now this does support PCIe 3.0, but by default that is not enabled. And so that's the point of this video today, is that by default, if you have one of these H710Ps that can run at PCIe 3.0 speeds, which will more or less double your PCIe bandwidth, it is not enabled by default, and you have to go in and turn on that feature. And I think a lot of people might not know this. If you're just, if you're not that familiar with the details and nuances of this 12th generation server, even if you have the higher performing H710P version, it is just by default running at PCIe 2.0. And so today I'm going to show you how you can enable the PCIe 3.0 capabilities of this card. So again, today's video is really just to help some people who might still be using traditional RAID or hardware RAID. And so if you are using an H710P, you want to enable that PCIe 3.0 to double your PCIe bandwidth. And especially if you are running some SSDs and stuff like that with this controller, you're really going to need that additional bandwidth. All right, so let's go ahead and take this card. Let's put it in that R720XD that I revived, and I'm going to show you how to enable that PCIe 3.0 capability. All right, guys, so here is my R720XD. We're going to be putting this H710P with the revision D1 chipset in the server. So let me go ahead and slide this all the way out, and let's get that installed. All right, so to get the H710 Mini installed down here in the mini monolithic slot, I got to remove this riser here. And we'll go ahead and install this. All right, that clicked. And let's put the riser back in. And we're done. All right, lid goes back on. And I'm going to plug in the power. All right, guys, so I think we're ready to go. I'm going to get on the iDRAC Virtual Console, and I'm going to show you what you need to do to enable that PCIe 3.0. All right, guys, so here I am on the virtual console of the R720XD, and pardon the background noise if it comes through, because with the H710P, for whatever reason, the fans tend to spin up. So anyway, I wanted to first boot up before we do the modification and show you how to enable that PCIe 3.0. I just wanted to show you that indeed it is PCIe 2.0 right now. So let me just kind of show you the RAID controller. So it is at PCI address 3. So let's do 000.03.00.0, and I'm going to grep for LNK for link, so that will get me like the link speed, link capability, link status, that kind of stuff. But you can see that this is a MegaRAID SAS2208 controller, so that's the H710P mini, as can be seen here in the subsystem vendor product description, right? So the code 1F34 belongs to the H710P mini. All right. Now, you actually know what? It would be interesting to see what the subsystem product code is for the other H710Ps. I wonder if they're the same or not. But anyway, let's go ahead and do this. All right, so you'll see that it says link capability, speed at 5 gigatransfers per second. So that's actually PCIe 2.0 speeds, right? So even though the chip is capable of PCIe 3.0, it is by default configured as a 2.0 card. And so I think this makes it a little bit extra confusing, because with the other H710Ps that are PCIe 2.0 only and are not capable of PCIe 3.0, you're basically going to see the same thing. So for whatever reason, this particular card, even though it is PCIe 3.0 capable, is by default configured as a PCIe 2.0 card. All right, so you'll see, width is by 8, so there are 8 PCIe lanes. And then the important part, of course, is the link status. And indeed, it is at 5 gig transfers per second at width by 8. All right, so as you can see, it is a PCIe 2.0 card right now, but we're going to change that. So let me go ahead and reboot this, and we got to press F2 to get into the system menu. All right, so here at the boot up screen, I'm pressing F2. You can see that now it says entering system setup. So that's what we need to do. And here's the H710P mini. All right, so here we are in the system setup menu. I'm going to go ahead and go to device settings. Click on that and give it a second. Okay, so it's scanned the devices on the system, and of course the integrated RAID H710P mini is right here. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to go to controller management, click on that. And we're going to go to the second item here where we say change controller properties, and click on that. All right, so right here, the third item in the list here says set link speed to Gen 3, and that's what we're going to need to do to enable PCIe 3.0 for that card. Now, had I installed one of the other H710Ps, this option would be missing. So if you have an H710P and you log into or you get into this menu system and you don't see this option to set link speed to Gen 3, then that means that you have one of the revision B0 H710P cards that does not support PCIe 3.0. All right, so let's go ahead and click on this and do that conversion. All right, at this point here, we're going to click on OK to confirm that change. And then we're back to this menu. And at this point, it looks like nothing has changed, but it actually has already changed. But we have to reboot the system. So I'll go ahead and click on back, and finish, and finish. And I think one final finish. And then, are you sure you want to exit? Yes. All right, so the system's going to power off, and then it's going to power back on. And during this next reboot, that card is going to come up as a PCIe 3.0 card. So let's go ahead and boot up into the operating system with that setting, and I'll show you that it is now in PCIe 3.0 mode. All right, so here we are booted up. I'm going to go ahead and log in, escalate to root, and let's see if we can find that command that we had ran earlier to look at the link speed. Let's check this out. All right, so now you'll see link capability is not 5 gigatransfers per second anymore. It is 8 gigatransfers per second. So indeed, this is now capable of PCIe 3.0. And of course, the link width is the same because the same number of PCIe lanes. And most importantly, if you look under link status, it is indeed running at PCIe 3.0's 8 gigatransfers per second. So that's how you enable PCIe 3.0 capability on the H710P, so long as you have that particular H710P with the part number I mentioned earlier. All right, so I highly recommend, if you are running a H710P RAID controller, that you enable the PCIe 3.0 so that you can double your PCIe bandwidth to your RAID controller. And this is especially important if you are running SSDs, because those SSDs can get very close to saturating the PCIe 2.0. So like if you have 8 SSDs that are running, say, at about 5 gigabits per second, okay, so that's about 500 megabytes a second, that's going to be 40 gigabits per second in total, 8 times 5, right? And if you're running in PCIe 2.0, you're going to be limiting that PCIe bandwidth to about 32 gigabits per second. So that's not enough bandwidth for all your SSDs. So if you are running SSDs, I highly recommend you make this change. And this is how you do it. So hopefully that helps you guys out. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like. And if you're new to this channel and you like this sort of stuff, consider subscribing to my channel. Also, hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next video. Also, if you want to support my channel, go check out my eBay store. I have the greatest selection of pre-flashed IT mode HBA SAS controllers for your true NAS, ZFS, Unraid, and other server NAS builds. All right, go check out the link down in the video description. And thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.